fellas, man. I know mine, but I want to hear y'all reasons on why. What in your life has happened that brought y'all to the table and brought y'all to the 2400 the movement, like to help me put this together. What happened for y'all?
For me, for me, deciding to want to be a part of this, um, to kind of talk about what kind of drove me to that mindset before we even got to this point. Um, for me, it was just on a way of thinking. You know what I'm saying? I got to a point where I noticed my way of thinking um, started to become repetitive and from people that I was surrounded by. So I knew like I got to a point where I kept doing the same thing over and over, and then for some reason I kept expecting a different result. So I knew that something was wrong, and then I realized it was my way of thinking. I realized, um, a lot of things wasn't my fault. A lot of it was from my upbringing, what my parents was taught, my grandparents were taught. But I had to start breaking down um, what are things that they were taught and they were teaching their children and what they teaching me was good things. You feel what I'm saying? Like for instance, money. You know what I'm saying? We wasn't taught how to deal with money, how to properly deal with money, what certain terms means like credit and debt and assets and liabilities. Um, or just even in religion, what religion truly means. We just kind of took a prototype of something and then we just pushed it on the next generation. Um, and I realized that I wanted to reach a certain point in life, and I knew that me taking on these past traditions wasn't going to help me elevate because I'm seeing the results in my face. I'm watching my mother at a certain age still working a job, you know what I'm saying, and living on her own, but still somewhat struggling, you know what I'm saying. I'm watching, um, my family go through certain turmoils and they not, you know what I'm saying. So I'm seeing like, all right, something is not right with the way we think and the way we move. So I realized like, all right, so I needed to change, and the main thing I knew needed to change was my mindset. I knew that was the key to everything. So that's why it made me gravitate towards the 2400 movement because I felt like the mindset. Each one of you had a certain mindset, which was the same like mindset that I felt like I had. That was, with can't get forget. I can't come up with the word, but with the trajectory of moving forward. You know what I'm saying? Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not, what I'm saying, understanding, our circumstances today and understanding that it has to be some type of leeway or pathway to move forward. You feel what I'm saying? And that's what kind of, gravitated me towards the 2400 movement.
Mm. 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 Strong, man. What about you, Kunta?
For me, throughout my life, I think the piggyback off of what Rodney said, you see, it's like we're living in a parallel world. You see a world that has, and you see a world that think they have an association with the haves, or the idea of what you can have. You know what I mean? Because at a certain point, I can't say I actually was poor. You know what I mean? I grew up in South Philly, in the projects per se, but I didn't think I was poor. I didn't know what poor was because we still had love, we still had family, we still had games, we still had all the things that you would associate with of having. It just wasn't the status quo of having money. So I guess I basically had the richest things that, even rich families don't have, which is love and dedication and people championing you and instilling, a lot of positive things in you. But so for me, it was finding that balance and seeing the balance of, well, where do I fit in this place? So as a child, I said, well, I like those things. I don't need a big mansion, but I like a clean neighborhood. Give you an idea. I don't have to have all the toys, but I like to have something. You know what I mean? I can have a GI Joe. It was something. It didn't have to be every. It didn't have to be all. So in that, it was like in that search. It was like, okay, we would go shopping on 9th Street, Italian Market, and I would say, man, I like the marketplace. I like the way the stores are. It's a little filthy, but at the same time, how a community comes and say shop every Saturday. That was like moving. You know what I mean? To go shopping downtown. From where we would walk up from 4th and Washington Avenue to Center City. That was a experience. Or we would go to walk and travel to Penn's Landing. That was an experience out of that regular status quo. So when I start seeing these things, it start expanding to other cities, other states, other countries. You know what I mean? And giving you a different perspective of what value is and what value looks like. And when I would come back to my community, I would say, well, dang, how come we can't have an Italian market here in North Philly when I was at 8th and Luzerne, or when I was in Detroit? Why can't we have an Italian market in our community where residents could come, not only make money and provide a service for people, but it also provide culture, it also provide resources. So this is not just a market thing, it's that whole thing that it encompasses of being able to be independent. So I guess it would feed that. Be independent, be creative, break down the normal barriers. Even if it's just walking to the library, to the park. You know what I mean? To see those different things, it made an impact. So what brings me forward is, as we go to develop, come to 2400, the movement, it was like all these things it encompasses everything. So what am I saying? I'm saying 2400 brought culture, 2400 brings creativity, 2400 allow you to identify yourself as far as creating an environment. And I couldn't have done it or couldn't have been a part of something with two people it's crazy how we connect. We all like-minded, but at the same time, individuals. We all outspoken, but at the same time, submissive at times. Mm-hmm. And the respect that's not only just talked about, but is felt. Mm-hmm. Is a respect, like, I know, like, I'm not by myself. You know what I mean? I know the conversation is not going on a deaf ear and you're going to do something else. And in a lot of saying business practices, what you may call this, a lot of friendships, what you may call this, a lot of relationships, same thing, what you may call this, don't have those core values that are expected. Like, so when this came together, you sent me a podcast to listen to just to get my opinion in July, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I thought it was just something random. I'm all over the place. You know what I mean? And it wasn't meant for me to hear it in July. Mm-hmm. And that was the time for you saying, yo, because I want you to hear this, I need your approval. You didn't say that. You just said, yo, I sent you a thing. It was a video. Oh, okay. But I got caught up until it was a time, I think it was like September, or it might have was the beginning of October. And I think my mom was like, yo, Vernon did a podcast. Somebody said, I said, what? I said, he ain't tell me, I just got finished talking to him. He ain't say nothing to me about a podcast, right? Yeah. I called you, I think I left you a message or something to say, mm-hmm. Yo, why you ain't tell me about your podcast, right? Yeah. So I sent it to you. I went through my phone, and then I saw that you said that you texted it to me back in July. Yeah. And it was at that point that out of all the conversations, out of everything that we had over the years, because a lot of our lives parallel in so many ways. that it was like, yo, he's ready. He's really serious about changing his mindset, changes his actions, really ready to dive into something that can be life changing without the money aspect.
Yes.
Because the thing about life is like this: once you find out, or once you become a part of something that's bigger than yourself, then you really start to live. That's where the emotion comes out. That's when it's like you find your passion when it's bigger than yourself. So then with Rodney was like, I say all the time, the way that you treat your family, first, the way that you treat yourself. When you treat other people better than yourself, that's a lot of character about a person. So I tell you, when we went down Myrtle Beach, and everybody, the family, everybody was there. Rodney and them come up and pull up with his family, but it was the way, it wasn't even, nothing said, it was the way you took control. Like, yo, we're here, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get with everybody else after we get our situation right. No disrespect, but he took his family like this is how it should be. It's handling business. We'll go to the pool, we'll play, we'll do all that other stuff afterward. We're going to get situated, make sure everything is good, safe, that we can come, and then we'll go. That means a lot. Because a lot of times what we do is kind of go off on a tangent. Once we start getting around our family, once we get diverted away from what structure is. And everybody followed their line. So what does that say? That says that this is normal. This ain't just when in front of people that he's this way. This is what Dad says. This is how we gonna act. And that means a lot. You know, as a father, that means a lot. You know what I mean? So, like I said again, it's an opportunity for me to actually get with guys that's just like me. And that's ready to move and ready to touch people's lives and ready to be a part of people's lives, that in all aspects, that's willing and ready to be, not only lead as an example, but be a part, you know. So, how about you, Vernon?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a lot of, both of you guys' story inside of mine, right? Like, that's naturally how we all connect. But I mean, like, for me, as I think back in my past, is I feel like, lately a common thing that people talked about is the other America, right? And for me, I've had the ability, similar to you, Kun, is to be able to experience both sides. To be able to, grow up and spend the majority of my, childhood in North Philadelphia, 2400 Clearfield. And, with all of our family and, kind of like home base, right? So I got to experience that. But then on the weekdays, I got to go back to media, where I got to experience a completely different lifestyle in the suburbs. And I got to grow up seeing a lot of opportunity and kind of seeing how the other America, quote unquote, gets to move, right? Like, all of those, what you talked about at night, going down to 9th Street there in the Italian market, the same thing applies for media, you know what I mean? Like, when I would walk a popular street in media suburbs of Philadelphia, you would have State Street. And State Street was, a place where business resided, right? And if you go into those stores, you know what I mean, the faces in those stores resemble the faces that reside in those communities. And one of the things that, even as a kid, that always had an impact on me was when I went back to North Philadelphia, where my family lived and what was considered home base for me, and I would go to the store, 22nd Street, for instance, is, the where business resides. It's the equivalent of State Street. And when you go up and down 22nd Street, you might only have 10, 15% of the businesses when we was growing up, where the faces that owned them and operated them looked like mine. And similar to the way you felt when I was coming up, I felt the same way, where I was kind of like, I didn't understand it. And for years in my life, I've always kind of thought that like there was something bigger just in the way. And when you're around your family and, people in your family that, have kind of lived through a different time in life where we aren't far removed from when there was a time where something was in the way. And what you don't realize is it's only like 2 generations removed, if that. You know what I mean? So like for our grandparents, there was a lot of stuff in the way, at a certain point in time. So that message, like Rodney talked about, gets then passed down to their children that there's something in the way. And then as I became an adult, what really clicked for me is the way that the world is changing. I realized, just recently, is that there is nothing in the way. And once that clicked for me, it was like, that's it. Like, that's the change. So like, to bring it full circle is when a lot of the social justice movement started to take off and, everyone started to, get out and march for, an end to police brutality and a lot of different, fights that started to happen where people started to hit the streets. What I always wanted to do and I always felt like the biggest fight for us as a culture is the fight on, breaking those ties like Rodney talked about with being able to really change the way that we think. Like that's the biggest fight for me, the way that we think. And be able to kind of start pretty much telling people that come from our communities that now is the time to create and to be a creator and to go out in the world and know that there are no limits. You don't have to ask permission. You don't have any barriers in your way. Now is the time to go out and whatever that thing is that you want to do, go out and do it, go out and be it. And as I started to have my mindset change, I asked myself kind of like, there's a lot of missions and a lot of people out there having mission-driven purpose for the culture, right? For us as blacks and for our communities. And I was like, how can I help? What can I do? And I thought for myself, when I started to talk to you, talk to Rodney, it was always starting with me. Well, what am I doing? If I believe that there's no barriers and I'm a creative person, what am I doing to show my children so that they can then grow up in a world where they know from day one there's no barriers. Go be what you want to be. Go do what you want to do. And you don't have to ask permission to add to this world. And so that's where I made the phone call. You know what I mean? I made the phone call to Rodney, and I remember we spoke, and I told him from day one, I'm like, I don't really know what it is, but we going to do something, and it's going to be so much bigger than whatever that first thing is. And then I got a chance to talk to Kunta, and I said the same thing to you, like, I don't know what it is, but we gonna meet at Rodney's house. We ain't even have a plan. It was just like, I'm going over Rodney. He was like, cool, I'm coming over. And that day we had no plan. And we just knew that the plan was we gonna get into this world, we gonna get active, and we gonna take advantage of the fact that there are no more barriers. There's nothing stopping us. We are all creative people. We are smart people. You know what I mean? We got great relationships out there, and we just gonna get in the game. And that's how it was. We jumped in the game, and we realized that the 3 of us here at this table, we can be the change. You know?
I got to get over now. Mama poke, daddy poke, candy lady, had to close, couldn't buy what she sold. Got to get over now. Granny poke, pawpaw poke, must run in the blood, shit, that's all we ever know. Got to get over now. Neighbors poke, city poke, politicians passing bills, they don't live around the door. Got to get over now. I got to get over now. I got to get over now. Who the fuck gon' tell me I can't get rich? Cause I come from a stick with a stone, break bones, and the junkie suck dick for the glass. Always begging when you pass. Why they eating out the trash shit? I had to